Hello everyone, welcome to another session of discussion about reading comprehension for GRE, GMAT, CAT and other similar exams. Today I shall be discussing with you the standard questions that appear on these tests in the verbal section. Once we know what the likely questions are, we are better prepared because we then prepare for those particular questions. So the standard questions or the typical questions for GRE, GMAT and CAT are: topic, what is the passage about? Scope. Now in one small passage, however long it might seem to us, the author cannot deal with every part of a subject. So he will choose a particular area and that is called its scope. So how much of the topic or which particular area of the topic he is going to deal with in the passage is what scope means. Then the third question is the primary purpose question, which means what is the main reason for his writing this passage. I know some of you might be tempted to say just to trouble us, but that's not the reason. Why is he writing this passage? Specific detail is a localized question where you are tested on your understanding of some area, some specific part of the passage. Tone and attitude. This is an external question, which means what is the author's feeling towards the subject. And finally we come to supplementary application or external or extension questions, which are again external questions. Which would ask you to apply the line of thought in the passage to a situation outside the passage. So if you were to continue that same line of thinking, which of these would be the likeliest answer? Now, when we know these questions, we will be able to decide our answers using only strategy. So the first strategy, very important strategy, is passage classification. If we know what type of passage it is, we are able to answer scope, primary purpose, tone or attitude and application questions without understanding the answers. By just doing a vertical scan of the options and eliminate the answers that don't fit in with the type of passage it is. Alright. So what are the two types of passages? We have the objective type, which is giving information or description, which is not expressing any opinion. For example, it could be the latest developments in cancer therapy. So the author will just outline all the new developments in this particular field. The second type is subjective, in which the author expresses an opinion, judgment, gives some advice, and for that he may first give us some information and then come to some conclusion, which is his personal opinion, or he could start off by giving some advice, some judgment, or recommend something and then explain why he's doing it. So he'll give reasons, some kind of evidence to support his belief or opinion. Now these two are not watertight compartments. In an objective passage, the author could express some opinion. For example, he could say, if he is discussing the comparative risks of bacteria and viruses, he could say that viruses are more dangerous. Now you know what is happening right now, correct? The pandemic is a virus caused by a virus. So viruses are more dangerous or lethal than bacteria because there is no treatment for them per se. So this is his opinion. He is expressing an opinion because he is using a descriptive word dangerous, and he is also saying more dangerous, but he is also giving a factual reason for saying that. So that keeps the passage still objective. Alright, so you cannot really say that an objective passage won't contain some kind of personal belief or statement. But the point is that overall we have to see what kind of passage it is. So the first thing is you have to identify the passage type. Then you will have to do speed reading. Okay, speed reading includes First of all, you should not read, because reading is word based, in which you can cover just one word at a time or maybe some more words at a time, because it is linear. But when you see a whole bit of text, a whole, for example, when you were children, you would have drawn a scene like this always, with the sun rising behind mountains and the river flowing and a boat on the river. Now if you were asked to describe this after seeing it for just a few seconds, would you try to remember the details as words or names, or would you try to remember the details as a picture? So we have to have a visual imprinting, not a verbal imprinting. Secondly, you have to see in clusters, in meaningful clusters. You cannot just singly or see words in non-meaningful groups. So if I say that viruses are more dangerous than bacteria, I cannot say viruses are. Then I cannot say more dangerous, and I cannot say than and then bacteria, because the link is gone. So I have to say viruses are more dangerous than bacteria. I have to see it all at once, leaving out the grammar words. So the words that will spring to my view are viruses more dangerous than bacteria. We can drop R because that is there for grammar. Secondly, thirdly, you have to take special notice of thought reversers, that is hidden negatives, double negatives, and linking words or joining words. So linkers and joining words are words like conjunctions. For example, you want to show similar, and there are many different ways of linking different ideas together. For example, if you want to show similarity, you will say he was clever and kind. But if you want to show contrast, you will say he was clever but dishonest. Alright, so there are such words which we have to notice, and we have to also notice hidden negatives. See, in English, many negatives are formed by using un, ir, ill, okay, legal, illegal. So you have to notice this. Now if they, and then there are some phrases which also have a negative meaning, which unfortunately for us we don't understand or remember. So it is like, he has few friends means he has hardly any. So it has a negative sense, but if I say he has a few friends, that's going to be a positive meaning. So he has little time to waste. Now he has little time would mean he has no time. So these are the hidden negatives. Alright, so this, and finally, before starting reading the passage, you have to keep these questions in mind, because when a question comes about them, you already have the answer predicted to some extent, but you only have to go and check again whether it's correct or not. Now first of all, let's go a little deeper into these questions. Topic, obviously, what is the passage about? I hope you've got this down, because now I shall be discussing each one in detail. So I need to erase this part of the board. So the topic is obviously what the passage is about, but the topic is determined by our understanding of scope. Scope is very, very important for answering topic questions. Also primary purpose, but there it is more what passage kind it is. So suppose there is a passage with a title, or which could be titled Democracy versus Dictatorship. And the question is, what is this passage about? What is the central idea of this passage? What is the meaning of this passage? And the options given are democracy as a form of government, to dictatorship as a form of government, 3. Democracy, the ideal form of government, and different forms of government several forms of government. Now here, understanding of scope, type of passage is very, very important. If it is a descriptive passage, we can safely eliminate, because when you say something is ideal, it is expressing a value judgment. So if he is just giving information, what are the features of democracy and how do they contrast with dictatorship. So if he is giving that only, if it is only a descriptive passage, this answer goes out directly. Now if we come to democracy as a form of government, we could put a question mark because we don't know what the other options are. The minute we see dictatorship as a form of government, we know that it is out. Even this, we can reason it out that if democracy were the only topic, now if you have noticed, I am following the method of elimination. So we are not going to select any option, but we are going to eliminate non-options, and whatever is left has to be the answer regardless of whether we believe it is the answer or not. It is not our personal opinion that matters here. It is what is presented to us as likeliest options, most correct of. So it's like we are not finding a perfect answer. We are not finding a correct answer. We are going to find the least wrong answer, the least incorrect answer, because whatever may be given as the right answer could also be faulty in some way or the other. So first of all, you have to get in your mind this particular point. Many of us go on reading the options again and again, hoping to find an answer that matches our prediction of it or our opinion of what is the correct answer, which we should not do, because we don't have that option. We only have some 5 answers given to us. So we are going to find out from it by elimination the least incorrect answer. So if we think that democracy as a form of government could be the topic of this passage, we would be making a mistake, because that would be wrong in terms of scope. Is the author talking about only democracy? If he were talking about only democracy, there would not be a second word in the title. There is one more word in the title. So this is, and again, he is not talking about all of democracy. He is talking about democracy with reference to dictatorship. So this goes out because it is wrong in terms of scope. The same problem exists with dictatorship as a form of government. It is not the only thing that the author is discussing, and he is not discussing exclusively dictatorship. This goes out. Now, as I said, this has already been eliminated, because if this is a descriptive passage, he will not give any kind of value judgment. Okay, he won't say this is the ideal form of government. Now we come to 2, which seem to be right answers, because of, now they are not taking any word from the title, they are not naming anything from the title, taken from the title, but we have, let's see, forms. So how many forms are we finding of government? 1, democracy. 2. So in this this part, it is correct. Both, but the problem is both are correct. And this is where we waste a lot of time again. What we do is we go back to the passage to see which of these answers is justified, and which is something you should never do, because you already read the passage and we have already understood the scope. So now we have to select from these 2 very close options, and most students mark the answer correctly first, but then they go back to the passage and mark the second option, which is incorrect. Now here we have different and several. Here we need to understand the meanings of different and several. Now for several, generally means more than 2, and it could be just a kind of listing of the different forms of government. But more important is, this is the key word or the linking word, versus. Versus implies that there is a contrast. That means these are two dissimilar forms of government. So we come to this part, and this is the correct answer. Now, even this may not be correct in terms of numbers, because we are discussing only two forms of government, but the point is that they are different. They are not similar, they are not alike, they are unlike each other because of the word versus. Okay, so this is how we can find out topic question answers through elimination of non-answers and understanding of scope. Now we come to the third question, primary purpose. Again, this is based on our understanding of the type of passage it is. So let us see. So the question will be formatted, which of the following is the primary reason for the author to write the passage? Okay. So now they'll be giving us some verbs in the answers. So let's take some primary purpose answer verbs. Let's see what it is. To narrate, to evaluate, to record, review, refute, discuss, recommend, analyze, reject, enumerate. Now, depending on the kind of passage it is, we can immediately decide what the answer is by eliminating non-options. Now, let's see which of these will go with which type of passage. When someone narrates, he's just giving an account of what has happened. He's telling us what happened. So this will go with a descriptive essay type. Evaluate is obviously he's going to decide the value of something. He's going to give a judgment, an assessment. So this will obviously be what kind of passage? It will be a subjective, or as it is also called, argumentative passage. To record again is like narrate. He's just putting down on paper whatever has happened. Review can be either descriptive or subjective depending on where it stops. For example, if he's giving the review of a particular book and he's just giving information like this is what the author discussed in the first chapter, this is the overview of this, that, in the second, and in his concluding argument the author says this, and he stops there, it becomes descriptive. But if he says that this book is a must-have for all the scientific libraries in every college because it is one of the best books that has been written, it is extremely informative and it delves deep into the subject, so that makes it also argumentative. To refute is obviously argumentative. To refute is to disprove, so it becomes an argumentative type of passage. To discuss, now here there is a little bit of confusion. Most of us believe that discussion is like debate, where one side has to beat another or you have to win the argument. Actually, discuss only means to share with one another information, opinion on a common topic. So it is basically descriptive. So the World Health Organization met to discuss the current state of the viral pandemic. So then each country's representative will say what is happening in his country, what are the measures being taken to remedy the situation. To recommend is again obviously Argumentative because he is suggesting favorably some action or some object or some argument. Analyze is to describe part by part a whole. So if he is analyzing a problem, he will say that this problem is due to this reason, this is the current state of the problem, these are the different solutions to it. So that is analyze. Reject is again, he does not agree with something, so he is not accepting that opinion or view. So this is argumentative. And enumerate is basically just listing. So he is listing all the various causes, or let's say of something, or the various products available, or the various uses a particular appliance can be put to. So that is again descriptive. So it's very important for us to understand what kind of passage it is. So this way we can do the primary purpose question without referring back to the passage, by just understanding what kind of passage it is. Now we come to the specific detailed question, which doesn't require much explanation. He may say that for what reason does the author consider this particular subject not viable, or this particular method not viable, and you know where it is because you already, as I explained in my previous session, you already got the location of that particular information. So you go back to it and check the options against the given information. Now tone or attitude is what are the author's feelings towards the subject. Now this is, he will not say anywhere that I thoroughly approve of this, I am for it, I favor this, or he will not say that I am completely against it. Most times he will not express his feeling towards the subject openly like that, but we can again, on the basis of what kind of passage it is, decide his tone or attitude. So let's take some tone or attitude describing words. Now for descriptive passages, tone or attitude, as you know, will be neutral because he is not giving any opinion of his own. So what are some neutral tone words? Dispassionate, disinterested, detached, objective, analytical, aloof. Now what do these words specifically mean? Dispassionate is unemotional. So he doesn't have any feelings, either kind of feelings for the subject. Now here we often make mistakes. We think disinterested means uninterested. There's a big difference between the two. Uninterested means not having any interest in something. For example, he was uninterested in sports. But disinterested means impartial. Impartial, unbiased, non-judgmental. So that fair and just, that is me of disinterested. Please remember, detached is not attached to the subject, not being personally involved in the subject. Objective you already seen, analytical you already know, aloof also means detached. Now we have, let us go to some argumentative or objective passage words, attitude words. Now it will be, let us see, it can be either negative or positive. So we can have words like, we may have words like approving, appreciative, skeptical, enthusiastic, etc. So approving would be a positive word. Appreciative would also be a positive word. Skeptical would be doubting, so it is a negative word. Ironical is also satirical or sarcastic, so that's also negative. Enthusiastic is obviously positive. So how did we do this? Again, by just deciding what kind of passage it is. So we have covered tone or attitude question, and finally we come to the application or external or extension question. So let us see. Have you got this down, all of you? Now suppose the author has written a passage in which he says, cigarette manufacture is good because it creates jobs and generates revenue for the government. He continues by saying, cigarette manufacture is bad because smoking is extremely harmful to health, detrimental to health. Now, in what kind of way will the supplementary application question be phrased? With which of the following is the author most likely to agree? Most likely to agree means that there could be more than one option, but which has the greatest degree of likelihood is to be found out. Most likely to agree, or which of the following is an analogical situation to the author's way of thinking. So, analogical situation, which of the following would be a continuation of the author's thought as expressed in the passage, etc. Okay, so this is the format of the question for application. Now let us see some options. Okay, we will see some options. There is a passage of this type. First of all, what did we say? We have to decide what kind of passage it is. Now he is saying cigarette manufacture is good. So he is using an opinion word, but he is giving a reason for it. Secondly, he is also giving the the other side of it. So this is a very balanced kind. Cigarette manufacture is bad because, so he is giving a reason for that also. So even though he has used opinion or judgment words like good and bad, he has used both and he has given reasons for it. So this remains a descriptive passage. Okay, this is a descriptive passage of the word. Just two words should not make us think that it is an argumentative passage. If it were argumentative, he would have just given information or opinion on one side. Maybe he would have said, however, overall cigarette manufacture is bad. Okay. Then it could be maybe an argumentative passage. So now let us, according to the type of passage, go to the options. He will never say this, ban smoking, because then this falls to the ground. If smoking is banned, what is the use of manufacturing the cigarettes? No one is allowed to smoke them. So this is a stupid answer in itself, illogical. Ban cigarette manufacture, he will never say that, again because he specifically pointed out an advantage of it. Now, ban public smoking, I don't know about it. So I'll put a question mark here. I'll read the other options. Promote smoking. Nowhere does he say that you should encourage smoking. So this is outside the scope. Punish smokers, again very extreme. First of all, he never believes it is something bad. He just says it is harmful to health. So he is not going to see this. So I'm left with ban public smoking. Okay. Now I may not agree with this answer as the ideal answer, the correct answer. But the point is, we can justify it by saying that it combines both these. Okay, it harmonizes both the opposites. It allows the manufacture of cigarettes, but it sees that people who don't smoke are not affected, their health is not affected adversely because the smokers will not be allowed to smoke in public. Okay, so this is how, on the basis of passive identification or classification, we have answered 3 questions: primary purpose, tone or attitude, and application or extension. And on the basis of scope, we have answered the topic question. What is this passage about? Next, in my next session, I shall be discussing the reasons that we fear or we find reading comprehension difficult. Okay, there are a number of reasons, and how to overcome those difficulties is what I shall be discussing in my next session. Goodbye, and thank you for coming here with me.